spot for you to remind people how they can go on your site and get the information and listen to prior shows. If they miss something today and they want to go back and listen again, or get those phone numbers like you're talking about.
You bet, folks. Anytime you want to check out something that we talk about here on American Warrior Radio, don't care where you're listening to it, worldwide or right here on the Space Coast, go to AVET Project. AVET is an acronym for American Veterans Empowerment Team, and that's what we seek to do. And I think we're pretty successful, only because we're an all-volunteer organization and so many people get together and make all these programs and services happen. But avetproject.org, there is an American Warrior Radio Facebook page as well. You don't have to be a member of Facebook. Don't get scared because it says Facebook. Just click on the icon from our homepage. You'll be directed and you'll be able to view photos, interviews, all kinds of stuff without even becoming a member of Facebook. So don't let that discourage you.
The Facebook icon, because I was new to that, is just it's an F down there in kind of a circle. It's easy to find. It's down on the bottom left of the page on their website.
That's right. Click on it and you'll go right there. Now, regarding the American Warrior Radio broadcasts, in the archives section, go to 1300WMEL.com anytime, day or night. Click on archives. Go a quarter of the way down the page and you'll see American Warrior Radio. Select the show that you missed or that you want to hear some more information about, because really we've done a pretty good job of bringing some guests in to have some good stuff.
Oh, absolutely, and some really distinguished guests. Well, they were all distinguished, and all have had great information about veterans, whether they be on active duty or veterans events locally, as we just talked about. And you know, that's our purpose here, is to bring you information that's valuable to you as veterans, as family members of veterans, as friends of veterans.
Couldn't said it better myself. Folks, also, we just had a wonderful interview with Dr. Lance Armstrong. You heard he was a flight man, navigator, I believe, on B-52s. Provides wonderful services, and I just wanted to throw out his contact number because I don't think he ever gave it during the interview.
No, he didn't.
321-783-4455. 783-4455. If you or someone you know needs chiropractic care or just wants to give a shout out to Lance to thank him for all the good work he does here on the Space and Treasure Coast, you can also go to his website, ArmstrongChiropractic.com. That's ArmstrongChiropractic.com. So a big shout out to Lance, because while you're going to be doing the stand down next week,
correct,
he's going to be there with a bunch of other chiropractors in training.
Right.
To provide direct hands-on service. I'm talking Glenn and Doctor. You're going to be doing claims benefit. Describe a little bit about that.
Yeah, we'll be there with our team, your Brevard County Veteran Services team, and we'll be able to help you on the spot with your claim needs for VA benefits that you may be having trouble accessing or getting a claim approved, or you may not even know you should have filed a claim about something. We're going to sit there, discuss your individual history with you, and help try and solve your problem and get those benefits you earn by service to our great nation.
Well, for sure. And that's at the Veterans Stand Down. It's off of Fisk, off 520, right?
Correct.
The Cocoa Armory?
Cocoa Armory. I think most people know where the Cocoa Armory is, and there's some signs off of 520 pointing to, depending on which direction you're coming, pointing down the road on Fisk. It says Cocoa Armory.
And the neat thing is, I know for you folks that have access to the base, whether it's the Cape or Patrick, you've seen in the Missileer there was a clarion call for action to get volunteers for not just the actual stand down, but all the things and parties and staging that needs to happen leading up to that. So if you do want to volunteer, I urge you to check out avetproject.org and you can see how you can get involved. I think they've got it pretty well staffed for volunteers on the day of the stand down.
That's right, but they could still use some people the day before, which is Friday the 30th, and they can always use some people towards the end. Everybody that works there anyway, it seems like to me, they're really quick at getting out of there when things are over. Well, there's still a lot of things to be done and cleaned up when it's over. So if you can help in that regard, that would be greatly appreciated also.
And I want to give a special mention to Emma Meisner, Emma and Maury, but Emma in particular, because she's the volunteer coordinator for this event at the Veterans Memorial Center. The Stand Down Committee is actually chaired by Dr. Bill Vianos, and anybody in the veterans community around here knows Dr. Bill.
You bet.
Well, they have done so much work in putting this all together. A big thank you to them. And if you're interested, as Glenn mentioned, about the events that need volunteers leading up to the 31st, not on the 31st, but there's a couple other events, you can check out the VMC's website, veteranmemorialcenter.org, I believe it is.
That's correct, or call them at 453-1776. That's 453-1776. That last four digits
I
ought
love
to ring
it.
a bell.
Yeah, no kidding. That couldn't be better. Well, now that we've gotten some of that stuff out of the way, we've got some other issues that we want to discuss. One of them is that our executive director, Kim Cohn, and our director of counseling, Joanne Ivins, are going to be participating at the, now you've heard of the FDVA, Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. Oregon, each state has one. The ODVA, Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs, is hosting, especially since it's Women's History Month, and particularly we're focused on military women.
Absolutely.
There is a big conference in Salem, Oregon, and Kim and Joanne are going to go there and make some presentations and meet and greet veterans. These are female veterans of past conflicts and probably current ones. They're in Salem, Oregon. If you want to find out and track what's going on there, whether you want to follow the tweets or whether you want to join the conversation on Facebook, go to avetproject.org. That's how simple it is. You can find out how to connect with us on Twitter. That's the little thing, 140 characters. We'll have some updates about that. But Joanne, our Director of Counseling, is such a supremely qualified and compassionate gal in dealing with veterans and their issues. I don't care whether it's a man or woman. She relates to them all very well. And Kim's going to be up there helping to facilitate that. But we want to thank Val Conley with the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs for inviting us to participate. They know about us up there. We have a charity registration. We operate programs and services throughout the state of Oregon. We have Texas and California also, but we're most, outside of Florida, we're most active in Oregon, and Joanne and her crew up there do a magnificent job, and Kim's going to be up there this time next week, actually. The conference goes through the weekend, and it's something that I think maybe Florida ought to take a lesson from and host a similar event.
Yeah, I do too, and be something to mention to the executive director of the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. We've got a conference coming up with those folks here in the first week in May, and certainly I know they have a conference at least once a year with all the state directors of Veterans Affairs, and hopefully they are sharing information like that between each other and jumping on things that sound like a great idea to help veterans that aren't in effect in their own states,
And
like Florida.
Exactly, and I think that's a good point you just made. These are an underserved population of veterans, women veterans. We talked about it earlier this month.
Yeah, and the VA's playing a little catch-up right now, but at least they are playing catch-up, and that's devoting more funds and resources to the specific needs of women veterans. You know, they don't have the same body types us males do, and they have other medical issues than males do. And the VA for a long time just wasn't geared in that direction. They've made great strides in the past decade, especially towards treatment for women veterans. And for you women veterans out there, if you're going to seek medical care from the VA, and I would encourage you to do that, the first thing you need to ask for after how do I get enrolled is where's the Women's Veterans Coordinator, and talk with them. Even before you enroll, talk with the Women Veterans Coordinator. Every VA medical facility, including the clinics like the one here in Brevard out in Viera, has a Women Veterans Coordinator dedicated to your needs and helping you through the curves and fastballs of the VA medical system and enrollment.
For all you listeners of American Warrior Radio, this is exactly why I mentioned at the top of the program to grab a pencil and paper, because of the information we're giving out. That's excellent advice, and y'all got to do that. I mean, you just have to get engaged with the VA. Before we get on to a next topic, which is a current topic, I want to say for the third caller, we have a Big Papa's dinner gift certificate. For the third caller to American Warrior Radio, we got a free dinner at Big Papa's, so give us a call. Now,
give us a call at
please, what's the number?
631-1300. That's 631-1300. Pick up that phone because people will be calling.
And they'll get a free dinner at Big Papa's. Now, we are going to talk next week with Dr. Fairchild, and we're going to have some live drop-ins. You're going to be on site at the stand down. I'll be there early, but come back to the studio here to do the program. I know one of the big and most prevalent issues is the post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
And something that is currently in the news is how the multiple tours that we're subjecting our service members to is having, I could say negative, I could say adverse, I don't know, it's having a life-changing effect on them and their families.
That's absolutely true, and that is a topic of many articles that I've seen alluded to in emails that I've gotten, and even some that I've read, talking about the higher propensity, if you will, of our warriors getting post-traumatic stress disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder-like symptoms being tied into the number of tours that they've had. The presumption being the more tours you've had into a combat zone, the more likely you are to have post-traumatic stress disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder-like stress-related issues.
Develop the signs and symptoms of the disorder anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know that I've seen enough to say that's true or not, but certainly being in a combat zone leads to post-traumatic stress disorder because that's a life-changing stress event that other people that have never been there are not going to experience, and that doesn't lead to some of the withdrawal symptoms and nightmares and other things that these American warriors, are afflicted with. So
hypervigilance, nighttime patrols around their home, they're just keyed up to such their mind has been transformed, literally. And
exactly.
the adverse effects of that, now we mentioned the multiple deployments. Never before in this country's history have we asked our military to endure more than one combat tour.
That's right. I mean, some of them in World War II, I guess, could have gone on for a couple of years, but we've never asked them, when you come home, to go back.
Exactly. Well, we're doing that as a matter of routine. And the, in my words, use and abuse of our National Guard and Reserve, which was at one time, by congressional mandate, a strategic force. It was one to be called on at the last possible time. In other words, you didn't use these people in an operational fashion. Well, now they are. They're simply they're an augmentation to our active force.
That's right, and I don't know, sometimes it seems to me like they're being used as if they are just like the active force and not the strategic backup, like you said, which was absolutely correct. Now, and those folks are, in my estimation, just like Garen said, being abused. I mean, they had multiple tours into combat areas, and they come back, and guess what? I guess employers have gotten creative in the ways they can disappear their job while they're gone, and their high, extremely high unemployment rate is just a national disgrace as far as I'm concerned.
And the topic that's in the news, and you've all heard about this, Staff Sergeant Robert Bales and the alleged atrocity he's supposedly committed over there, where a bunch of Afghan civilians were murdered, were shot. Now, we don't know all the facts, and I never want to prejudge anything, but I'm going to come out and go out on a limb right now and say a man that served 3 tours in Iraq, had a traumatic brain injury diagnosed, as well as half of his foot blown off, I understand, and was promised to never redeploy to a combat theater, yet was called up and sent back there. Is it any wonder, if it did happen, is it any wonder that he may have snapped?
Well, certainly that's a fact pattern setting up
pretty good defense.
Yeah, well, setting up a good defense and setting up a reason for why he may have snapped. And, you know, as Garen said, at least from my point of view, it's still to be determined reasons and what happened and what the real facts are associated with that. But the point we're making here is that multiple deployments into combat areas makes it more likely that people are going to be afflicted with the unfortunate disease called post-traumatic stress disorder, which can lead to suicides, it can lead to crimes, it can lead to alcoholism, drug abuse.
Self-medication.
Self-medication. And you need folks out there, if you are one of those multiple deployed veterans, get some help. Go see the VA. They will take care of it.
But Glenn, they're scared of the stigma. They're scared of, there's so many rumors out there. Oh, gee, if I got diagnosed with PTSD, even though they're probably a picture-perfect example of it, they're afraid because they might lose employment opportunities. They might lose their right to own a handgun. All this is hogwash, but it's perpetrated by somebody, and the grapevine's pretty strong. And so they're reluctant to get engaged.
I know, that's another one of those social stereotypes that we need all of you Americans out there who've not been multiple deployed to help break that stereotype. What we need to do is help these people, provide them, get them the right kind of assistance out there, and there's growing assistance that's very effective being employed every day, and the VA's a leader in treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. So if you are afflicted out, I want to mention right at this moment that on the suicide side, if you are a veteran and you have thoughts of suicide, start with the clinic out there and call 637-3788.
Write that number down.
637-3788. We won't worry about giving you the National Suicide Hotline because you want to plug right in directly to what's available for you right now in this area. And you'll get some help.
If you know a warrior in distress, do that. Phone the local VA clinic wherever you're at and say we've got somebody that needs some help, and they'll get them the help. It's just important that we bring that point up. The judgments are going to be made, but I got to say something. We had an Arabian army officer of Arab descent who shot, cold-blooded murdered 13 warriors on Fort Hood. On Fort Hood, the Army base in Texas, and wounded some 32 more. We're almost at 3 years. He hasn't even been tried yet. There were no clamorings at the time. They didn't even want to say it was a terrorist effort on his attack as he's going, Allah Akbar! Okay, I'm really fed up with that, as you can probably tell out there, because nobody was clamoring about the death penalty. But man, we've already convicted this young man who was subjected to things that little shrink in Texas didn't know anything about. And he was supposedly providing treatment to our warriors. He was supposedly a psychiatrist, Glenn. Talk about a breakdown.
Well, there's a big breakdown there, and you know, I spent several years while I was on active duty in Great Britain, in England, and I note that their views on things like that are a little bit different. So.
Yeah, it is different, but the idea is you gotta get engaged, folks. You've got to get engaged in making a difference. And if you have an opinion that you want to spout off about, get a hold of your congressman, get a hold of your local county commissioners. Let them know the importance of getting our warriors the help that they need.
Absolutely, and you know this will be a continuing problem because we're still actively engaged in Afghanistan, as I'm sure you all know out there in our
nearly
listening
100,000 strong.
Exactly, and that's some tough place to be employed in combat. It's mountainous, hilly, and rocky, and not everybody there that's in the civilian population exactly likes us.
We'll have some interviews with not only the Marine Corps regarding the suicide prevention programs that they have, but also some active duty folks sharing their experiences on upcoming episodes of American Warrior Radio. But Glenn, we've talked about this so much in the past. This stop loss business, the end date now is?
Yeah, stop loss is that thing where you can get money back if you were involuntarily extended on active duty, and the ending date of that now is October 21st, 2012. If you don't know how to access information about it, contact us at 633-2012.
Or avetproject.org. All the info's there. Folks, it's been a lively episode of American Warrior Radio, and we appreciate you joining us. Stay with us because we're coming back at you next week on American Warrior Radio right here on WMEL. And as always, Glenn,
don't forget, think of that.